Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Ranking the Albums. Today, we're going to look at the studio discography of the great British progressive rock band Gentlegiant. Okay, I know some folks out there who maybe never heard of Gentlegiant before, or have heard the name but never listened to them. And of course, we got a lot of folks, I'm sure, who are big-time prog heads and been following prog rock for decades and decades and decades and know this band very, very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at their studio albums. I'm going to rank them from my least favorite to my absolute favorite. Another one that's kind of hard, all right? The bottom couple were pretty easy to do. From then on, it's just like, man, it depends on like what week you ask me, all right? Because I'm a big fan of the Gentlegiant discography. I love the band. I love a lot of these albums. So sometimes, you know, the ones that I really treasure the most, which is a good chunk of them, which one I prefer could change at any time. So I'm going to give you my choices for today, all right? But then I'm going to preface it by saying if you ask me a month from now, might change a little bit. And then I'm going to finish it off today with a quick little rant about a stupid troll who made some comments, got into an exchange with myself and a whole bunch of other viewers just a little while ago on our Budgie video. Normally, I don't like to give these guys the time of day. He's since been banned from posting on the channel, but I just, man, so ridiculous. Anyway, I'll get to that in a few minutes. All right, so kicking it all off, my least favorite Gentlegiant album by far, and it's really the only one that I really just don't like much, and that's Giant for a Day. I know it has its fans out there, okay? Honestly, most like hardcore Gentlegiant fans that I've met throughout the years, and I've met quite a few of them, also feel the same way about this album. But I do run across people every now and then who find something charming about the kind of like poppy and up-tempo power pop, almost like punk nature of a couple tunes on here. Yeah, I don't know. This album just doesn't do anything for me. You know, Words from the Wise, kind of fun, I guess. Spooky Boogie, I kind of dig that a little bit. It's Only Goodbye, Rock Climber, I don't know. Just for me, a lackluster album. The band obviously trying to break away a little bit from their more, totally non-accessible, sound as the 70s are winding down to something a little more commercial. And for me, it just doesn't work. A little more successful is Civilian, their very last album. I don't mind this one too much. I find a good chunk of this way better than Giant for a Day. And, I think had the band not broke up, I think they might have had some success going forward, because I think what you hear on this is not really that far removed from what Genesis were doing going into the 80s, what Yes were doing going into the 80s, what Rush were doing going into the 80s. But it's just, the band had already been together over a decade, and I think that was just it. And they never had a lot of really, really big success. So I think that just kind of broke the guys. But, Convenience is a great tune. I like all through the night. All right, number one, Underground is very good. The bonus track on here that was recorded at these sessions, Heroes, is a fun tune. Shadows on the Street, I like this album. All right, even a little bit better is The Missing Piece. So this came out before Giant for a Day and Civilian. This for many is probably their last great album. I wouldn't necessarily call it great. Strong, yes. 2 Weeks in Spain, kind of bouncy. I'm Turning Around, kind of majestic sounding. Again, this album is also a little bit more accessible sounding than most of their previous albums. Bet You Thought We Couldn't Do It, really snappy, upbeat. Like I said, kind of punky, power poppy. They were really starting to kind of dive into that on this album. Mountain Time, fun song. Memories of Old Days is probably everybody's favorite song on here. Just gorgeous, great acoustic guitar work on that. Just a really lush, kind of very beautiful, beautiful song. As Old as You're Young, For Nobody, that's vintage style Gentlegiant, but it's got like this kind of aggressiveness to it. I think this album and the next one were kind of very influenced by the, rising punk scene to an extent. But, for me, the last, really, really solid album. But again, I rank these three easily at the bottom. Okay, I like each one better than the other, but all the other albums going forward for me are absolutely top notch. Gentle Giant. I'm gonna go next with, and I love this album a lot, with Interview. All right, even though it's in the bottom half, it's still extremely good. Title track is killer. I Lost My Head. Absolutely killer. Good kind of like epic closing album track. Another Show, Empty City. Time and a lot of those really kind of like bouncy, complex, Gentle Giant, like the counterpoint and all that unison playing between the keyboards, the guitar, the rhythms, right? The occasional reeds and things like that. Man, fantastic stuff. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Kerry Minier, one of the most underrated keyboard players of all time. Fantastic. This whole band is just like made of virtuosos, but they're, kind of humble, right? So Interview, very, very, very good album. Next up, I'm going to go with the debut, the self-titled debut. A very charming album. Some excellent songs on here. I think the band, from their basis in Simon Dupree, right? I think becoming Gentle Giant, I think with this album kind of figuring out what they wanted to do, maybe not 100% there yet, but still really well done. It's kind of like a dark, medieval sounding, bits of folk, little bits of chamber music, some rock, some blues, little bits of jazz, a little bit of everything on here. What will become on the next album going forward, not quite there yet, but title track Giant is awesome. Funny Ways, just an amazingly haunting tune. Alucard is great. Isn't It Quiet and Cold? Nothing at All. Why Not? And The Queen. Why Not? Nothing at All. Absolutely spectacular. A lot of jamming going on in those couple tunes. This is a little bit different Gentle Giant than what we would see on the next album going forward. But I think no less magical. All right. Gentle Giant in their infancy. All right, next up, and this, like I said, this is where it gets hard, and these could change like daily. There are going to be some of you that are going to be like, no way, I like this album. It's like, and I agree with you. Like I said, next week I could be changing the order a little bit. I'm going to go with The Power and the Glory next. A fantastic album. This is probably Gentle Giant at or near the height of their powers, knowing exactly what they want to do. They don't care whether they're selling millions of records. They're making music the way they want to make it, and they had a dedicated fan base, may not have been enormous, but who just love what they do. And I think for a lot of us who discovered this band well after the fact that they were long done, I think we can kind of look back on them and say, man, this is one of the most unique groups ever to come out during that decade. Because there was nobody like them. Nobody like Gentle Giant. They were so ahead of their time. And I listened to their music today, and I got into Gentle Giant like in the late 80s, early 90s, all right? Well over a decade after they were done. And I'm just like, wow, what planet did these guys come from, right? Here, you've got, Proclamation, So Sincere. I mean, just the complex nature of these songs are just, they go from like this tranquil beauty to this complex, just like off the wall, coming at you from all angles, right? Just amazing rock and blues and jazz and classical and chamber music and Renaissance music. It's all over the place. Aspirations, Playing the Game, Majestic, the incredibly intricate Cogs and Cogs. I mean, God, Valedictory, No God's a Man. It's all great, all great. So, yeah, it's kind of coming in the middle of the pack here, but that just goes to show you how strong this discography is. Right? Next up, I'm going to go with Acquiring the Taste. Probably their densest and least accessible album, I would say. And not an album I get a lot of people that come to me over the years and they're like, Pete, I want to get into this band. You keep talking about Gentle Giant. Where do I start off with? I generally don't start them off here because you really have to get used to the music of this band before you dive into their second album. League's different than their debut. This album is just so almost impenetrable, but that's what's great about it. Okay? Again, not like anything you've ever heard before. Pantagruel's Nativity, one of their best songs. fantastic. Edge of Twilight, Acquiring the Taste. Wreck, fantastic. The Moon is Down, so spooky and atmospheric, right? The House, the Street, the Room, kind of bluesy, lots of soloing, all right? Black Cat, Plain Truth, the closing track, driving a bluesy rocker with some great violin from Ray Shulman and guitar solos from Gary Green. A fantastic album. Just, it's all over the place, but that's what makes it so good, all right? But not for everybody. Not for someone brand new to Gentle Giant. I would never recommend this album. This is one you got to kind of ease your way into later on after you get into some of the other albums that may be a little bit more accessible. Which, you know, it's hard to use accessible and Gentle Giant in the same sentence. But all right, next up, you bet you thought I was giving things away. No, next up is Freehand. I love this album. Like I said, on any given day, this could rate a little bit higher. This, not the first Gentle Giant album I ever picked up. I believe this was the third. But I remember when I got the first two Gentle Giant albums I picked up were Three Friends and Octopus. And, you know, right off the bat, I was kind of like, this is different. I'm not so sure I like this. And then I got this one. And this is the one that really got me into and just kind of starting to figure out what this band was all about. So this was my gateway into really understanding the music of Gentle Giant. I have since grown to love other albums more, but this is one of the ones that I generally tell people to start with because it's a little bit more, it's a little lighter, it's a little airier. There's a lot of groove to a lot of these songs. It's still complex and has all those different elements, but I think that this album is a little bit easier to get into if you're a novice and brand new to the band. So, you know, Just the Same on Reflection, which has those multi-part vocal harmonies, fantastic. The title track, Freehand, is a great song, a good hard rocker from the band. Time to Kill, His Last Voyage, Taliban and Mobile, you know, however you want to say it. Fantastic stuff. Just a good, majestic prog rock album, okay, with all those little elements, but still very easy to get into, I think. All right, you know, next up is an album that if you would have asked me 10 years ago, I probably would have been my number one. And it's still in my top three. And again, it could be number two a month from now. It could sit where it's at. It could shoot up to number one 6 months from now. I don't know, but I just really dig this album a lot. In a Glass House. The Runaway. Again, pretty much a concept album, right? Right, starts over at the beginning, you know, with the breaking of the glass and, you know, The Runaway, An Inmate's Lullaby, Experience, killer song. Love the kind of shuffling melodies and the interplay between all the instruments going on. Just absolutely killer. A Reunion, the title track, Way of Life, just nonstop greatness from start to finish on this. Classy stuff. An unbelievable, hard to believe that back in the day, this was never made available in the U.S. This was never released officially here in the U.S. This was only available as an import. So, you know, you had their first couple albums readily available, you know, Vertigo releases. And then, bloop, for those fans here in the U.S., had to go buy an expensive import LP of this. All right? Which is a shame. But a beloved album by most fans. Most people you talk to about Gentle Giant, In a Glass House generally sits and ranks pretty high up for them. All right, my top two, again, I really debated this top three big time. And as it goes back to the story I was telling you before, how the first two albums that I bought, originally I wasn't that into, had a hard time just understanding it. Now, all these years later, they're my favorites. So it's weird how that kind of turned back around. So I'm going to go with Three Friends as my number two. Okay. And of course, some of you may be like, oh, that looks like a different album cover. Yeah, I've got both album covers. This was the U.S. album cover release, which some of you may say, well, it looks exactly like the debut. I don't know why they did that. Well, you know what? This is pretty crappy album cover if you ask me, but yeah, whatever. The music is just wonderful here. And like I said, there are times where this is my absolute favorite. Gentle Giant's the first one I ever bought. And, you know, Prologue, School Days, Working All Day, yeah. I mean, great song. Peel the Paint is a top shelf Gentle Giant song in my opinion. I love Peel the Paint. I love, Gary Green, very underrated guitar hero. I've had the opportunity to meet and hang out with Gary a number of times, and he's a wonderful person. I always love his guitar playing. I love that extended solo in that song. I love the riffs in it. I love the kind of the weird kind of atmospheric regal opening, and then it moves into like this hard rock kind of raucous passage there. Love it. Mr. Class and Quality, the title track, Three Friends. Again, another kind of concept album. Just a very pastoral, warm 70s prog rock album. There's just something so special and magical about some of these albums for me. And I've always loved and cherished how different these guys were. There's sometimes you're in the mood to listen to something that doesn't sound like anything else. And that's Gentle Giant for me. And that's one of the things I've always loved about them. And that's why they've always been a top 3 prog band of all time, along with Genesis and Yes. There's just something about them. Sometimes King Crimson floats in that top 3 as well. But just something about these guys that I just absolutely have always loved. Their music to me is just so charming and so intricate and just special. Well, of course, if you've been watching and you know the band, today I'm picking as my number 1 Octopus with that killer Roger Dean cover artwork. Of course, if you're someone in the U.S. who bought that album, you probably saw this album cover, right? This is the Steven Wilson remix, by the way. It's fantastic. Just some great. The Advent of Panurge, first of all, is a classic song. Best Gentle Giant song right there. Raconteur Troubadour. Charming, charming song. A Cry for Everyone, a good hard rock song. You've got the ridiculous, complex Knots, right? Just doesn't get much better than that. The Boys in the Band, Dog's Life, charming song. Just love it. It's like kind of like Gentle Giant's little lullaby song. Really, really great. Think of Me with Kindness, gorgeous, and of course River. Rivers just kind of has this, again, this kind of majestic feel to it. Just a, damn near perfect album. Love it. As are a lot of these for me. So let me recap. So again, number 1, we're going to go with Octopus today. Number 2, Three Friends. Number 3, In a Glass, House. Number 4, Free Hand. Number 5, Acquiring the Taste. Number 6, The Power and the Glory. Number 7, Gentle Giant. Number 8, Interview. Number 9, The Missing Piece. Number 10, Civilian. And coming in at number 11, Giant for a Day. There you have it. Gentle Giant ranking the studio albums, and get their live album too. Well, they got a ton of live albums, like these unofficial bootleg live albums. There's so many of them, but Playing the Fool, the live album, is absolutely amazing. One of the best prog rock live albums of the 70s, so you need to get that. Trust me. Get it. You'll love it. So anyway, now that we got that out of the way, I told you I was going to do a little rant on this imbecile who decided to post a ridiculous comment on the Budgie video. So, and he's probably watching. He can still watch, but I've banned him from posting anymore. So he basically posted and said that, nobody knows Budgie. You've obviously run out of bands to talk about. Time for you to do something different. Your whole act is getting stale, so to speak. And, before, I basically said there's a lot of people who are into Budgie. I mean, just look at all the people commenting and, and then a whole bunch of other viewers chimed in and started trashing this guy. But of course, he decided to just concentrate on me. And I basically told him, I was like, you know what? If you don't like the bands, don't watch. And then he got all defensive. He's like, don't tell me what to do and all this kind of nonsense, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, your act is totally stale. He goes, and get this. And I laughed at this. I laughed so hard at this. He basically said that what I do here, all I'm doing is making money off of all these bands, and I am no better than a bootlegger or a ticket scalper. And I'm like, really? Boy, is that a work of genius. It's like, first of all, you don't know shit about me. I have been doing this for nothing for 20 years, okay? Whether it be in physical magazine format, okay, or having the webzine, seeattranquilly.org, and now for the last 5+ years on YouTube. Up until a year ago, I didn't make a dime doing this. I have been pouring my blood, sweat, and tears and hours and money. Yes, it's costed me a lot of money to do this over the years, to review and promote bands and their music and their albums. I don't do it. I never did it for the acclaim. I never did it for the money. In fact, I lost a killing over the last 20 plus years doing this. Okay? I have always done this to promote the music and to promote the band so that they make money, so they get the exposure. But even more importantly than that is to help you, the viewers or the readers, to discover new music so you can actually go out and spend your hard-earned money to support them and enrich your lives with the music. So don't fucking call me a don't compare me to a bootlegger or a ticket scalper. Are you kidding me? I don't even play music on this channel. All right? So, man, I was like, I read this and I laughed and I'm like, you are so far off the mark. Go back into your parents' basement and hide under the covers, you troll. And I hope to never see you back on here again because you obviously don't get what we're doing here. All right? To compare me to what you compared me to just shows me you don't know anything. You don't know anything. And you know what? You come across as someone, you think that everybody who's on YouTube does this just because they want to do it? Do you know how many people are on YouTube making videos and making millions, okay, that aren't even doing anything as honest as what I'm doing here, all right? I'm making nothing here. All right. There are people making a killing on YouTube, but it's no different nowadays than me working at a radio station or anybody working at a radio station or in TV or in the movies, whatever. We're trying to bring some entertainment, right? If we get paid a little bit of money, fine. All right. But me, it's always been more about bringing music to you guys. Okay. Helping the bands expose their music to you. All right. So have fun in your life, buddy. All right. You don't know anything about what's going on in this channel, and we don't need you here. So don't let the door kick you in the ass. Visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're on YouTube all the damn time. What do we got coming up tomorrow and the next day? Hopefully, we're going to do The Who tomorrow. All right, ranking the albums. This weekend, we're going to rank the UFO albums. All right, I might try and squeeze in a top 10 songs or something like that. I got some new product stuff I want to get to that I want to tell you about, so you guys can go and seek it out. Because, of course, I'm promoting the music here, so you guys know what you probably should go look for to buy, right? What a moron. Anyway, that's my rant for today. Gentlegiant. If you haven't discovered the catalog, you need to. Give a couple albums a chance because they're not a band that's going to instantly appeal to you. You got to peel back some of the layers of the onion before you get to the real meat of what's going on there. It's not a band on first listen that's going to be like, wow, that's great. Or it may, okay? But I know most people I talk to, they have to ease into Gentlegiant. Once you do, unforgettable band, unforgettable music. I miss them so much. I still would love for them to come back and do like a big one-off show, but it's not going to happen. But some great music that we can treasure for the rest of our lives. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one. Take care, and bye-bye.